This video has been sponsored by War Thunder. You suck with the Chaos Dwarfs. Admit it. Go on, admit it now and I'll stop playing footsie with you under the table. And today I'm going to tell you why. Having trouble with your infernal engines? Are your Chaos Dwarf campaigns getting Hashut down? Well, don't worry. Your friend and confidant, Zatan the Blake, is here to look after you. And today we'll be diving deep into why you suck with the Chaos Dwarfs, Astrogoth Ironhand, and the Disciples of Hashut as a faction. My name is Blake and I bid you my fondest welcome to Blake's Takes, where today I'll be giving you my take on why you're just awful with the Chaos Dwarfs. Is my take hot or not? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoy today's video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps the channel out. Without further ado, let's drill into it. Reason you suck with the Chaos Dwarfs. Number 1. You don't grab Gorduz. Gorduz Backstabber is a very potent legendary hero who can convert an army of hobgoblins into an extremely strong fighting force. All you need to do to unlock him is recruit 8 hobgoblin units, and this should be your first priority. Once you've taken your opening settlement, make sure to get a hobgoblin barracks in there. Hire another lord to follow Astrogoth around. Every turn, make sure that hobgoblins are being recruited. Cutthroats, archers, sneaky gits, any will do. My personal preference are the hobgoblin archers. They're cheap and en masse they can do a fair amount of damage. Sneaky gits are also great for getting around the flanks and attacking unsuspecting ranged units. Yoink! Once you've unlocked Gorduz, stick him in the second army and continue to push out hobgoblins. This second lord will be your hobgoblin stack. A stack to follow your legendary lord around, comprised entirely of roided up hobgoblins.
Yes, I've done steroids. And yes, I am on steroids, monitored and managed by a trained hormone clinician.
The buffs that Gorduz applies are insane, and turn your hobgoblin fighting force into a serious threat, even into the late game. He can bestow stealth onto all hobgoblin units, letting you get up to some very sneaky shenanigans, whilst substantially boosting their damage and survivability. He can also summon units of cutthroats like a Skaven Plague Priest. This ability has a very good cast range, so it can be helpful for dropping on enemy ranged units. Pick up Gorduz's hobgoblin buffs as your priority, then pick up his casualty replenishment rate and start working on his other skills. This hobgoblin army will support Astrogoth in the difficult battles to come. Reason you suck with the Chaos Dwarfs. Number 2. You don't get rid of Grimgor. Grimgor Ironhide, the biggest, baddest orc, is just on your doorstep, nestled away in the mountains of Morn. He hates you and all the Dawizar progress you stand for. But what exactly did we do? Just a touch of light slavery? He certainly can hold a grudge, and I thought we were the dwarves here. Grimgor is a hyper-aggressive legendary lord who, if left unchecked, will rapidly turn into a massive problem for you.
No question about it, I am ready to get hurt again.
Once you've taken your starting province, head east towards the Saber Mountain. Position Astrogoth at this point here. This will allow him to get another turn of recruitment in, as well as allowing him to reach Saber Mountain next turn. Attack the ogres living in there. Fight this battle manually to conserve the lives of your troops. Position yourself on this hilltop here, and have your Castellan attack the enemy lord with a few pot shots. This will provoke the enemy into charging you. Whilst the ogre bulls may look intimidating, their low leadership will mean they break and run easily enough. You just need to keep your back to this rock here and it will be difficult for the ogres to flank you.
Wow.
Now press on and attack the Tusked Sons. They can already be quite a challenge due to their numbers, but have your hobgoblin army continue recruiting and set up an ambush with Astrogoth. You may not even get the ambush, but they will spend movement points investigating this potentially juicy morsel of an army for them to attack. This can split up their armies like this here, making the job of killing them a lot easier. Make sure to use Astrogoth, your Castellan, and your Bull Centaur for distractions, as your ranged units do most of the heavy lifting. Use your Bull Centaurs to attack any cavalry or squig herds they may have. Finally, make sure you tie up the giant they have with your labourers. Feed it plenty of chaff for it to squash whilst your archers and blunderbusses take it out. Giants are great for dealing enormous damage to single entities. They aren't great at hacking through hordes of infantry, so just toss your gobos in there to tie it up and keep it busy. Now finish off the Tusked Sons. With these guys gone, this will give Kolek a chance to fight off Tamurkhan. Oh, never mind. So we've plunged deep into the east and established ourselves. With all this fighting, we've levelled up Astrogoth quite nicely. Now we get to go after Grimgor. Notice it's only turn 12 and Grimgor already has another full stack of big uns as well as his own army. We need to get rid of him before he can call out a war and double his forces. When fighting Grimgor's army, you really want to be the attacker. This means he will adopt a defensive position. Attacking whilst he's garrisoned in a settlement is a clever idea, as it means his army will be fully wiped out should he lose the battle. This will allow you time for your hobgoblin reinforcements to arrive, as well as giving you the opportunity to waste his Doom Diver catapult ammunition with a fast-moving unit like Astrogoth, or, if you recruited it, the Flying Taurus. If that doesn't sit right with you and feels a bit too cheesy, then you can always send some labourers into range to eat the shots. What you really don't want to happen is that Doom Diver catapult hitting your Hobgoblin Archers or Chaos Dwarf blunderbusses, because those units will be winning this fight for you. Once your reinforcements arrive and are in position, you can start throwing Burning Wrath spells at the enemy to provoke them into charging you. Try to position yourself close to the edge of the map so you can negate a lot of Grimgor's flanking units like Boar Boys and Snotling Wagons. Grimgor is a hero and lord killer, but he can't take on 4 lords and heroes at once with blunderbuss support, especially at this early stage of the campaign. He's also quite slow, so if any of your heroes and lords do take too much damage, you'll be able to retreat them back easily enough. Don't be afraid to take casualties with your labourers. That's what they're there for. Make sure the enemy doesn't reach your precious firing lines, and you'll get the win. For this reason, I keep most of my labourers and infantry to the flanks, purely to tie up cavalry and chariots. The single entities I keep in front of the blunderbusses, so they're a smaller target and less likely to get hit by the volleys, whilst also giving a clear line of sight to the enemy. Now you can see the very next turn Grimgor's faction has called the war, so we kind of got here just in the nick of time. It's a similar strategy fighting this particular army. Keep your infantry on the flanks to give your blunderbusses a clear line of sight. The entire game is to keep your blunderbusses online and firing by any means necessary. We send the Great Taurus and some sneaky gits out to disrupt and destroy any siege equipment they might have. We use the Ash Storm spell to slow down troops who are getting too close to the blunderbusses. With his armies gone, go and take out the rest of his territory as quickly as you can. You need to wipe Grimgor off the face of the earth before he has the opportunity to bounce back. With that done, you now have an even meaner and greener problem to face. Now, because I have some bills to pay, here's a message from this video's sponsor. This video has been sponsored by War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and is available now for free on PC, console and mobile devices, with over 2,500 tanks, planes and ships under your command, spanning from the armoured cars of the 1920s to the main battle tanks and fighter jets of today. Now is a perfect time to jump into the world of War Thunder. Immerse yourself in combat where vehicles don't have health bars and their components have been mapped out in rigorous detail, where the damage inflicted can be seen in X-ray vision for a close-up of the carnage. You'll see precisely where the shell penetrated, which parts were affected, and what ultimately led to the demise of a vehicle. Join a worldwide community of over 70 million players in epic PvP battles today, and delve into the world of War Thunder. Use my links in the description below to get yourself some fantastic goodies to get you started, like 100,000 Silver Lions, 7 days of premium access, the exclusive decoration, the Eagle of Valor, as well as much more. These rewards are available for new players and players who haven't played in the last 6 months. Thank you War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. Reason you suck with the Chaos Dwarfs. Number 3. You don't take out Tamurkhan. Oh Tamurkhan, the defiler of my Kolek guide. This monster of a legendary lord is like a gangrenous limb. He will spread quite the rot if you allow him to fester. The only solution is amputation. Oh, but Tamurkhan is a Chaos faction. Surely you could just ally with him. I hear you cry. That's wrong. You're wrong. He's the devil. You see, warriors of Chaos factions are good neighbours for you, because you can trade with them. Nurgle factions, however, are not good neighbours to anyone, other than other Nurgle factions. You can't trade with them, and he'll be spreading disease through your settlements with reckless abandon. Notice that despite taking out factions close to him, he still doesn't really like us. Our positive relations very quickly begin to sour. Tamurkhan will invade you. It's only a matter of time. You should strike him as early as possible to stop him from turning into the nightmare abomination he can become. So, march your forces back from Grimgor's old empire, which is now under new management. Go and take the Challenge Stone. With a reasonable amount of luck, Tamurkhan will be sat in there, pondering how he is going to invade you. Notice he's already mounted on Buglos. This is not going to be a pretty fight, but being mounted on an enormous creature that regenerates does have its drawbacks. It's weak to fire, something that you have in droves due to your hobgoblin archers. It's also a large target, so your hobgoblins will struggle to miss him. Focus Tamurkhan down with fire damage. Drop an Ash Storm on him to further amplify his weakness to fire. Have all of your archers focus fire on him to bring him down. Now, really importantly, make sure you don't have any lords or heroes close to Tamurkhan when he dies. Otherwise, his passive will trigger and it will kill your lord or hero. Take him down from range with your archers and drown him in hobgoblins and labourers instead. Tamurkhan will also have Khazak the Befouled in his army as a certainty. He's a very fast and potent hero who is mounted on a rot beast. Get your lords and heroes to fight him instead, as long as he isn't in range of Tamurkhan. Khazak also has regeneration and that much coveted weakness to fire debuff, so once your archers have finished Tamurkhan, he's your next target. Now, killing Tamurkhan's main force will deliver a decisive blow, but you can't let him recover. On the harder difficulties, Nurgle recruitment basically means instant recruitment of units at full health. You need to press on and eradicate his presence. Don't waste time replenishing. If you've lost units, fill them out with labourers from captured territory. Keep moving forward until his faction is wiped out. Notice that this is just 4 turns later after losing his entire army. He's back with basically a full stack of extremely dangerous units, and he's recruiting another army.
Bonnie, how do you keep getting back in?
I'm a drunk. I don't know nothing about how I do anything. Whoa!
Don't give him any breathing room. Whilst this might be a very painful fight at the beginning of your campaign, nothing can be more campaign-ending than a souped-up Tamurkhan descending from the mountains. Get him early before he gets you. Reason you suck with the Chaos Dwarfs? Number 4. You don't know how to use Astrogoth Ironhand.
From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me. I craved the strength and certainty of steel. I aspired to the purity of the blessed machine. Your kind cling to your flesh, as if it will not decay and fail you. One day the crude biomass that you call the temple will wither, and you will beg my kind to save you. But I am already saved. For the machine is immortal.
Astrogoth Ironhand is a very powerful legendary lord. Fast, an excellent melee combatant, and a very potent spellcaster. But do you know how to use him? Your first skill points should go into his magic skill line. Astrogoth gets excellent spells for dealing with infantry formations, Firestorm and Hellhammer. Astrogoth also gets the Dark Sacrifice unique line ability, which reduces the cost of Hellhammer dramatically. In the very early game, he doesn't have any damage dealing spells apart from Burning Wrath, which, if not overcast, hits with about the same power as my Nan does. So if you're going to bother using this spell, you need to overcast it. Otherwise, save the Winds of Magic for something else. Even if you just want to proc Astrogoth's spell passive for increased fire damage and damage around him, I'd suggest using Ash Storm or Cascading Firecloak for its utility over a normal cast of Burning Wrath. Overcast, it does do a nice chunk of damage though. It's also got an enormous range and a mortar-like trajectory, so it's a great tool for provoking enemies into charging you when you don't have artillery at the beginning of the game. Now, the general strategy for Astrogoth is to position him far away from your lines to work as a makeshift skirmishing artillery piece. Have your forces stand far away at the back of the map and have Mr. Ironhand run over to the enemy lines and fling spells at them to draw aggro. March the enemy back to your blunderbuss firing lines for quick and easy results. He's so fast, he'll normally be able to get away from most things that are chasing him, and because he's a good fighter, if a thing does catch up to him, he can normally throw hands with them. The great thing about his spellcasting is with every kill up to 100 kills he makes, Astrogoth will get more melee attack and weapon damage with his Mechanical Overdrive passive, so you can farm a few kills with his spells to make him more effective as a fighter in melee. He's tanky enough to hold back enemies, have him stand in front, tie up the enemies while your blunderbusses get to work. Another thing to note about Astrogoth is his massive 15% ward save for Bull Centaur units, so you're very much encouraged to get him into his army as quickly as possible to take advantage of that. After his magic and unique line skills are completed, I then focus on buffing his troops in the red line skill tree, normally with a focus on his Chaos Dwarf ranged infantry and his Bull Centaurs. Reason you suck with the Chaos Dwarfs? Number 5. You don't understand your economy. The Chaos Dwarfs descend upon this world, ravenously harvesting all the valuable materials they can in order to make products. They do this uncaring of the environmental effects or the extreme mistreatment of their workers, in a way not too dissimilar from our own species. This section will break down exactly how the Chaos Dwarf economy works and how to get the best out of it. The Chaos Dwarfs have multiple currencies to manage: gold, labour, raw materials, conclave influence, and armaments. All of these resources complement each other in different ways. So what do? Gold, like other factions, you use it to build some of your buildings, mainly outpost buildings like mines and stash huts, defences for your settlements, and natural resource buildings. You also use it to recruit and pay for upkeep of your troops, just like other factions. Labour, these are the chaps who will be extracting your raw materials. They can also be spent to fast build buildings. You get labour from winning battles, sacking settlements, and raiding. As health and safety is not really a thing in the Chaos Dwarf workplace, you'll passively lose labour over time. This is impacted by the control in a settlement. The lower your control, the faster you'll lose labour. So it's a good idea to keep yourself topped up. Sacking settlements is the best way to top up your labour reserves, but you can win battles and enslave captives or do a bit of raiding. Focus on raiding high-value settlements for big labour gains. Ensure all provinces that have a demand for labour have the necessary amount of labourers using the labour economy section just here. Raw materials, this is what your labourers produce from their efforts in the mines. These are crucial components. You require them to upgrade your main settlement buildings in towers and factories to higher levels. You require them for economy buildings in factories and towers. They are consumed in the production of armaments. Raw materials are the foundation of your empire. Armaments are used to upgrade Chaos Dwarf units, anything that's not a hobgoblin or a labourer. They're also used for increasing unit caps on those same units. You also require them to build advanced military buildings. Conclave Influence is used for purchasing seats in the Tower of Tsar, and you get some pretty excellent abilities and buffs from this. They can also be spent occupying towers at higher levels when you conquer them, in a similar way to how the Skaven operate, but this is just for provincial capitals. In this way, Conclave Influence is useful throughout a playthrough. It also lets you force Confederation on other Chaos Dwarf factions. You gain Conclave Influence by raising towers and temples, and by conquering territories. There are some excellent seats which I strongly advise you spend your conclave influence on and secure. Warmonger in the Tier 1 military district gives you campaign movement range after every successful battle. Hierophant in the Tier 2 sorcery tower allows you to summon in Kadai Fireborn. Great for getting rid of enemy ranged units and artillery, or getting the enemy to bunch up for your own artillery strikes. Now, what do you want to build? Your focus when you're starting out should be outposts. Without raw materials, you can't upgrade your settlements and you can't produce armaments. The majority of my occupied territories will be outposts. You need a lot of raw materials to fuel your empire. I go at around a 3-to-1 ratio in terms of provinces which I dedicate to outposts and factories respectively. This is just a rough guideline. Factories work best when they're grouped in a province. Firstly, because of the edict which allows you to boost armament production, and secondly, because of the furnace building which you can get in the tower, which substantially reduces the raw material cost for the production of gold and armaments. Outpost provinces don't need to be grouped. You can have a factory in there, as you can build the miner's workshop to increase raw material gain in the province by up to 30%. So you don't really lose out on too much efficiency if you mix in the odd factory to an outpost province. Any settlements that have a port should be either a factory or a tower. Outpost ports are pretty underwhelming. Also, remember to use your convoys to get items you're lacking. If you have a big surplus of armaments, then maybe sell some for some gold, or maybe you need to buy some labour for some shiny new mine shafts you're constructing. Whatever you're lacking or have too much of, bundle it into a caravan and trade it. Finally, if you're in a pinch and are close to bankruptcy, you can trade labour for gold or conclave influence immediately using the labour actions here. Good to know if you're running at a deficit and you're desperate for some funds. The key thing is to not worry about it too much. Just focus on getting a large base of raw materials and making sure your provinces are fully staffed, and the rest will fall into place. If you've made too many factories and you can't support them with raw materials, you can always convert the settlement back to an outpost. Whilst armaments are certainly necessary as you start teching up, in the early game, hobgoblins in large numbers will be able to stabilise your burgeoning empire, and they don't require armaments. So focus on your raw materials and get those towers built. Reason you suck with the Chaos Dwarfs. Number 6. You don't know how your armies work. The Chaos Dwarfs have an ingenious blend of extremely elite high-tier units coupled with cost-effective meat shields to get the job done. But do you know how to use them? Now, the Chaos Dwarfs have some of the most powerful units in the game, but in the early game they can be very limited in what they can field due to their armament restrictions. So you have to rely on hobgoblins. Lots and lots of hobgoblins. These cute little critters will form the backbone of your early game armies. My personal favourites are the hobgoblin archers. En masse, these guys are fantastic, and are still effective into the late game. Sneaky gits are also a very good option. They have a bonus versus infantry, poison attacks, and a precursor ranged weapon. They're also sneaky, as their title implies. Great for setting up on the flanks and attacking enemies from behind. The Wolf Riders are also another solid choice for going after ranged units and artillery teams. They won't last long in sustained combat, but if you have enough of them, they can actually be quite formidable. Finally, Hobgoblin Cutthroats are a pretty standard sword and board melee infantry. They're pretty mediocre. Whilst they are better than Goblin Labourers, I definitely think Orc Labourers give them a run for their money. They're cheaper, have armour-piercing damage, and they also stand in a looser formation, which makes ranged attacks less effective against them. I wouldn't go as far to say Orc Labourers are definitively better, but they serve a similar function and they're cheaper. Cutthroats just get in the way of the enemy. Don't expect them to do much damage unless they manage to get onto ranged units. Supporting your chaff will be Chaos Dwarfs with their Contempt ability. This gives your Labourers and Hobgoblins a leadership buff, which will keep them in the fight for longer. It's always worth trying to overlap your Hobgoblins and Labourers with units that have the Contempt trait. I put the chaff up in the front to take the charges and all the arrow fire, then I send the Chaos Dwarfs in once the initial damage has been done. Keep them close to the chaff to prevent them from routing. Now, with the Chaos Dwarf part of your roster, you have excellent defensive heavy infantry and very potent ranged units. These all require armaments to get more of, so you need to pick wisely, especially in the early game. I recommend not spending your precious armaments on Chaos Dwarf Warriors or Infernal Guard until you get much later into the game. Your chaff units will do the job of holding the line just fine. However, Hobgoblin Archers, whilst a solid archer unit to spam, don't come close to the extreme damage output your blunderbusses and fireglaves can put out. It's not even a contest. This is why I strongly recommend only spending your armaments on your ranged infantry options at the beginning of the game. None of your early game units come close to the damage these things will deliver, and getting a pair of blunderbusses into another army early will drastically increase your damage output and combat potential. Now, you certainly can invest your precious armaments into things like bull centaurs or Kadai, but whatever you do, just leave the heavy infantry alone. Don't get me wrong, Chaos Dwarfs and Melee Infernal Guard are not bad units, and I do utilise them later on in the campaign, but they just don't provide as much damage value as your ranged units or monsters will. Bull Centaurs are another unit which you want to prioritise because of the massive 15% ward save you get from Astrogoth, so if you're clucking to get up close and personal and you just can't stand wonky ranged units, which is understandable with some of the bugs of late, then get the Centaurs instead. They'll provide you with much more value than your heavy infantry. Whilst not quite as brokenly overpowered as they were when the Chaos Dwarfs first launched, they're still formidable and can threaten pretty much anything. Kadai are also solid units. You may want to stack them on Drazwas the Ashen when you confederate him, because he gives them some excellent buffs. The Fireborn are more of an anti-infantry specialist, good for supporting units of infantry as they get into melee, and the Kadai Destroyer is actually really good these days. It's fast on its feet for its size and packs a serious armour-piercing punch. It can go toe-to-toe with anything in the game really, as long as it can reach it. It still has the glaring clipping issue on its back though.
Come on!
Finally, your artillery and war machines, which are all great in their own way. Hell cannons have their own section in the armament pool, and they're not bad at all. Great range, a homing projectile, and does a good chunk of damage. It's a solid choice in the early game. They're decent against all targets. Now, the Magma Cannon is also a solid artillery piece, but great for taking down walls and tearing apart infantry. Unlike your other artillery piece, this piece has a more cannon-like trajectory, so it can't really fire effectively over walls unless you have significant elevation. So for this, I don't tend to recruit more of them in the later game, but they're still a very good piece. The Death Shriek rocket launcher is actually very useful. It's your best artillery piece for dealing with single entities. Swap its ammunition to the single rocket mode, and it can harass enemy lords and heroes from afar. It's really very good in sieges for this job. The anti-infantry shot is on by default. It's okay, but I find the Death Shriek far better at taking out single entities, or even other artillery pieces, with its single shot rocket. This firing type is also very good at taking out towers, walls and defences around settlements, so I do like to keep a Death Shriek rocket launcher in my late game armies. Dreadquakes are amazing units, as long as they're pulled by a Skullcracker or Iron Demon. I'd never recruit a Dreadquake mortar by itself, but pulled by Iron Demons or Skullcrackers, these are probably the best units in the game. Exceptional anti-infantry killing power, these units become a staple of your late game armies. They do, however, take 2 War Machine unit caps per unit, so be aware of that. They're excellent units, but note they're not very good at killing single entities, so that's why I like to mix a Death Shriek in to mitigate that. If you're using Iron Demons, remember that they have a potent shotgun-like ranged attack which will carve right through your infantry as well as the enemies, so make sure that they're not behind your infantry formations for this friendly fire to happen. Also, when your lines meet, remember to turn them off fire at will so your Dreadquakes don't annihilate infantry you have on the field. So we've been over the units, let's talk about your magic. We've touched upon this briefly in Astrogoth's section, but your other magic users are very strong. Sorcerer Prophet Lords or Demon Smith heroes. They both get access to flying through Bale Tauruses and Lamasau, and you have some excellent laws to choose from: Death, Fire, Hashut, and Metal magic. What I recommend you think about is what units are going into this army, and try to get a magic user to compensate for the army's weakness. Say, for an example, you have an army with multiple Dreadquake mortars in there. do you really need a fire mage who excels at killing infantry? Would you be better served with a Lore of Metal caster who can cast Final Transmutation on single entities whilst your Dreadquakes take out the infantry? Think about what the army you're creating is good at, and get a sorcerer which can do what your army can't do. Hashut magic and fire magic are exceptional at killing infantry, whilst death magic and metal magic are great for taking on single entities. So bear this in mind when you're forging your armies. Now, your other heroes are also exceptional. The Castellan is great in all armies because it gives you campaign movement range. He also buffs artillery with bonus explosive damage from extra powder, and he can also replenish their ammunition with restock. He's got a nasty little ranged attack which can put the hurt on any enemy, and he's solid in melee. Just overall a fantastic hero. Get one in every army. The Demonsmith, as well as being a very good spellcaster, gets the Infernal Engineer perk, which increases the reload skill of artillery pieces. So it's worth sticking him close to your artillery as well as the Castellan, so the artillery can enjoy both buffs. He can also heal Hellforged units twice with his Reforge ability. The Bull Centaur Tauruk excels at taking down enemy large units. He's great for this with his absurd weapon strength. I like to take his Murderous Charge and Seeing Red abilities to further increase his speed and damage output. He's pretty tanky too, but keep him away from missile units. He also trains your forces, so overall another excellent addition to any army. Now let's talk tactics. How do we make all the different parts of this infernal engine run smoothly? In the early game we have our blunderbusses up at the front, spaced quite far apart from each other. This means that if one gets compromised, we can turn and fire onto ourselves as needed. Note, they're in a box formation. This just helps them maneuver faster than if they were in a straight line. Archers behind come to volley over the top of them, and all of our infantry are on the flanks. Notice that infantry have at least one unit with contempt. Chaos Dwarf warriors for this example. These are here just to keep the leadership of the chaff unit in line. With all of your melee infantry stacked on the flanks, this will incentivize the enemy to charge you from the front to get mowed down by your blunderbusses and hobgoblin archers. Now, there still will be flanking units, but you'll be prepared with your infantry. In this particular fight we had a heroic victory. The enemy massively outnumbered us, so we turned off large armies. This meant our pathetic garrison reinforcements wouldn't show up, and the enemy would trickle into us. It was a similar methodology. We have 4 units of blunderbusses, which in my view might be a bit of overkill, but notice this big rock here protecting the flanks. We've nestled our units into it to prevent a flanking attack from the left hand side. Astrogoth has gone up to provoke the enemy into attacking us, whilst we lure the units back for a warm blunderbuss welcome. The centaurs on the flanks are dealing with any of the snotling wagons, whilst the majority of the forces charge directly into the blunderbusses. Now, later on in this battle, the reinforcements of Arachnarok spiders are showing up, one at a time, to get slaughtered by the blunderbusses. If you have a really weak reinforcement army, remember to turn off Control Large Army, because this is where your blunderbusses really shine, picking units off one at a time. If you've got an attacking elite army and a reinforcing hobgoblin army, this trick also applies there. Your battles will be a lot easier this way. So what have we learned here? Keep your flanks secure with your infantry, keep your blunderbusses and archers unobstructed with a clear view of fire. Utilise your single entities to goad units back to your blunderbuss lines. With the way armaments work with the Chaos Dwarfs, you're encouraged to use all of the different units in there, as increasing unit caps gets exponentially more expensive. So I won't be going through example army compositions because your armies can and should vary significantly. Reason you suck with the Chaos Dwarfs. Number 7. You don't know how to project your power. The Chaos Dwarfs are the most land-hungry race in the game. You require vast swathes of territory to correctly exploit the natural resources of this world, and mould them into consumable products. With this lust for land comes a liability. Your territory will grow large, and with armament limitations, you will lack strong troops to defend it all. Luckily, you have logistics to navigate this problem. Every tower has access to the patrol routes building. This gives you campaign movement range up to 20% more at tier 5 for an entire province. This can be further increased with the industrial security technology, which adds a further 10% movement range. This basically allows your armies to force march for free. Get these buildings in all of the towers you can. This will allow you to move your troops quickly around your empire. It is rare that I won't make a provincial capital a tower for this reason. Now, you have other abilities within the tower too. The Sorcerer Prophet's Estate gives all your new heroes and lords a +2 in recruit rank. Get enough of these down, coupled with the finest leaders technology, and you can pump out immortal lords and heroes wherever you are. But that's not all. In the tower you also get access to the War Machines building, which removes up to 3 turns from global recruitment, whilst also increasing global recruitment capacity. Now, these particular ones coming next aren't necessary and they arrive a bit later in the campaign, but they do make your power projection project even more profitable. Get the Bloodthirster Prison in the Demon Stump to allow global recruitment access to Demonsmith sorcerers. Confederate Zatan the Black and get the Tomb of Kengai Khan for extra recruitment rank on hobgoblins. Get the Weapons Depot technology researched for even more recruitment rank. And voila! You get yourself an Overseer Lord, pick up the skills in the Blue Line tree that reduce recruitment cost and give extra unit experience. Pick up his Red Line skills for hobgoblins, and in just a single turn you have an army of gold chevroned hobgoblins descending out of a base, buffed up to the 9s, ready to wreak havoc. Pick up a Demonsmith for your spells and you're really ready to have a party. But that's not all. You notice an enemy is eyeing up one of your settlements. Oh dear, we don't have 1 turn to prepare, and there's no army nearby to help. Well, you can rush build garrison defences, grab all the walls upgrades, throw labour into the province, and spend the labour on fast building all the walls. Pick up the Dreadquake mortar battery too, just toss more labour into the province, and hire yourself a high-level Sorcerer Prophet with all of their best spells to help you neutralise the threat. The Chaos Dwarfs can project their power at an unprecedented level. Make sure to be using and abusing it. So that's why you suck with the Chaos Dwarfs. Do you agree with my take? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps the channel out. Again, a massive thank you to War Thunder for supporting the channel. Check out War Thunder using my sign up links below to get exclusive access to content for PC and console players. War Thunder is available to download for free on PC, console and mobile. And I want to give a massive shout out to my Patreon supporters: B, Joshua Krager, Dinkle250, Gonk, Little Horus, Hatoris Kuz, Bongos McDongos, and Jelly. I've been Blake, delivering my take. Thank you all so much for watching.